a Texas woman was convicted of manslaughter for killing her fiancé in a car crash, and she has just now learned that GM was actually the cause of this. It was a faulty ignition. So this happened back in 2004, which makes it even particularly tragic because she's lived with this guilt for a decade. So what are your initial thoughts on this? I mean, really, it's been a question for her if she caused like her fiance's death, and she is incredibly distraught by this, of course, and now she's saying what should be done. I at least want GM to apologize. They have not issued an apology.
Let's talk about two different things. One is what happened, and then second of all, the repercussions, right? So it turns out because of this faulty ignition, what happens is you lose power and subsequent loss of control of the car. And the amazing thing is this used to happen to me with my Buick Skyhawk when I was in high school. So I had this crappy old car.
Oh man.
And every once in a while, it's not the same ignition problem, but the power steering would go out. You know what happens when the power steering goes out? It turns out you really need that thing, okay? The wheel becomes incredibly heavy, and it would always go out, and it happened a bunch of times when I was making a turn.
Oh,
so
man.
you're making a turn, all of a sudden you're like, oh no, and it's super heavy and you're heading towards another car. One time I came like within inches of hitting a school bus, and you have to like wail on the steering wheel to get it to turn. It's the scariest thing in the world. So now that's one of the problems here. The other thing that would happen is the airbags wouldn't deploy because they lost power. So it's a double whammy. It wasn't just that she was charged and convicted felon, which is amazing. She had to do a plea bargain because she was worried she was going to get jail time. So she got 5 years probation. She's a convicted felon. When she didn't do it, it wasn't her fault. She got thrown from the car because the airbags didn't deploy.
So she was hurt as well, and they found no evidence of drugs or alcohol in her system. So the police couldn't determine the cause for the crash.
But nonetheless, you know, they charged her with manslaughter, and like I said, negligent homicide is what she pled guilty to, which is unbelievable. So number one, she lives in a small town, and everybody thinks, oh my God, that's the one that killed her fiancé. She admitted it, right? I mean, she's a convicted felon. She said she was negligent, even though she wasn't negligent, right? And it gives you a sense of what people will confess to and plead to, even if they didn't do it, right? So that's an interesting insight. And then second of all, look at GM. They've known for so long. And to know that people died, right? And this is one of the 13 cases where they admit it, right? And to let that sit on her conscience anyway, to let that sit on her record anyway, I mean, I don't know if you can sue them for enough money.
It's incredible, and yes, we're talking about 13 people that have died, and you can never put a number on that. But we're talking about 2.6 million cars. So this isn't like, oh, 20 of our cars were faulty and it caused 13 deaths. It's 2.6 million cars that were out on the road for over a decade, and they decided to do absolutely nothing until now.
I mean, if they were considering negligent homicide and convicted her of it because of the guilty plea, what should we consider for GM? No, you see, isn't that amazing? If you're a corporation, yeah, there'll be financial repercussions, right? I'm sure they'll sue, and other people will sue, et cetera, right? And they should. And by the way, of course, the person who died, their family is distraught, and all this time they didn't quite know what actually happened, and they had to live with that, right? But if you're a person, they put you in jail.
If you're a corporation.
Free to go. I mean, that's the thing. They tell us that corporations have the same rights as human beings. The Supreme Court has said, kind of, through a lot of their decisions throughout these times, that they have the same rights as human beings. Constitutional rights, right? Rights endowed by their creator, inalienable rights, right? But they also have special rights. You go to jail, they don't go to jail. What are you going to do, put GM in jail? You can't do that, right? Are you going to put their executives in jail? You're not going to do that either, right? So they get to have rights we don't have. So, and if you go to do damages against them, at some point somebody's going to say, wait a minute now. You're going to hurt the corporation so much, you're going to hurt the economy. People are going to lose their jobs. Corporations are people, my friend. That's what Mitt Romney's going to tell you, right? Then they're going to turn back around to, no, don't punish us too much because it'll affect the people. So you know what affects people? When apparently your ignition shuts off for no reason and people die.